Hello everyone, Josh Kessler from the Monroe County Public Library here. I'm going to talk to you about another piece of digital creativity at home software which you can use for free, and this is called Hotglue. Hotglue is a what you see, what you get editor in the kin of Dreamweaver, and basically what that means is it gives you a platform or a canvas wherein you can use the tools provided by them to do things like creating web blocks or video embeds without any coding experience. Now, this is noting that you can add your own code, so if you have custom CSS or JavaScript which you know how to use, you can do that. But this is really aimed at more basic level engagement, which is why it's a good starting tool. So on the website, a couple of the great things that you can find on here is an introductory video which goes over some of the features. It has an internal forum which you can use to get some answers, and it has how to Hotglue link here, which is video tutorials that you can reference to figure things out. So what you can do here is register an account, which I've already done, and in addition to this, you can actually host Hotglue on your own web server if you have something like a URL and some way to host it, whether that be personal or something that you've purchased. So it doesn't necessarily cost anything, and once you get logged in, so I'm going to go ahead and log in here. Actually, I'm logged in. I forgot that I didn't log out, but once you log in, it goes through some of the donation features, which is forwarding your own URL to the Hotglue website you've created. So if you don't want to use this branded website, so mine's my username.hotglue.me, you can pay the fee and do that, and then it also gives you unlimited storage. I'm not sure what the storage limit is, but I haven't met it, and just for like simple tinkering around, you probably won't run into that problem. So from here, I'm going to go to the start page, which is probably the page that you'll be seeing, and this is my starting page. It gives me my white canvas that I was talking about earlier, so this is where you're going to do all your work on. It gives you some instructions, like you can type the word /edit at the end of your URL to go to editing mode, and likewise you remove that to go to a live version, and you can single and double click to add elements. It also recommends Firefox as the browser to use whenever creating your web pages, but I'm using Chrome and everything's gone just fine, so I presume that any modern browser would work the same. So I'm going to click this to make it go away, and I'm going to add my first element, which is going to be a text box. I'm going to click this. That's a single click, and you get these radial buttons here, and if you double click you get different radial buttons, which we'll go to here in a moment. But first, so the single click, I have this first button, which is add a new text object. I can upload files. That's where space limitations might come into play. I can embed YouTube or Vimeo files, and I can embed a whole other web page. So I'm going to click a text object, and what it does is it gives you a text object, which you can see. You can click, move around. It's this little square. I can click and drag the edges, make it larger or smaller. I can type in this text object, so I'm going to type test. And what I can do now is change the size of this. So this is where like kind of the cost of simplicity comes into play. To change the size of my text, I can only adjust it by clicking and dragging on this little option here. So to exemplify this, I'm going to make it much larger by clicking on this, dragging down, and you can see once I click off, it's kind of like off the square, and it's very large, and I've kind of like lost where I was. I lost this little menu along the way. I can change the positioning by clicking and dragging this. So you can see that maybe this isn't the most intuitive system, but it is quite simple. Now, once I have this, I can actually delete the edit and go to my website, and this is my web page. This is a website on the internet. So you can see that I can click and select this text. So this is like a normal paragraph elements in the website, and this itself, the background, isn't actually an image, but it is a probably a simple CSS attribute. And to get back to edit, I'm going to go back and just type edit at the end here, and then I can start clicking and moving around and things like that. So once again, you can click and drag, you can do different things like that, hover over these buttons and get their functions. I did note that it takes a little bit of time for it to pop up, so you may have seen a few seconds there. Let me do this one, which is the background, and you see that it had probably a good 1 or 2 second delay, which isn't extreme, but in the modern world we expect immediacy of action. So let's go ahead and click on that and show you that you can edit attributes live. So if I do this and get my text looking kind of wacky or whatever, I can go back to the live view and it immediately reflects the changes. So that's the power of this WYSIWYG editor. You can do very simply things that you would only be able to do through coding by just clicking and dragging, things like that. So it's also very simple to add images, so I can upload files. I can link to a URL which has an image. I can link in between these two elements here, so if I have one here, I can link to this anchor point. If I drug this way over here, I could, whoops, I got the edge of my window there rather than the box. I could get its anchor point name, copy that, and then scroll back over here. Oops, I need to click OK there. Scroll back over here, go to the link, and link to that. Now, one thing that it doesn't do for you is add the number sign to the beginning of this, which is actually like an anchor tag. I don't know if that's something that was missed in the design, because on one of the video tutorials it does show you that you do get that from copying the elements from that box, but in my experience that didn't work. Just know that if you're going to anchor to go to something specifically within your page, you do need this little pound sign, number sign, hashtag at the beginning. So now if I click that and went to the main website by deleting the edits, it would take me to the element which was over here. And you can see that it takes me to the anchor point whenever I click on it. Similarly, going back into edit, so I'm going to go /edit again. If I'm linking to an outside website, I actually need the protocol. So that's the HTTP or the HTTPS. So if I wanted to link to Google and I tried to do google.com, and I remove the edit mark here and click this, it thinks I'm trying to go to an internal web page that I made via Hotglue, which is called google.com, which doesn't exist. However, if I click this and I change it to the HTTPS, let's go ahead and type that / google.com, and then go back to the live web page, it'll take me to Google just fine. So that experience is kind of the cost of free software sometimes. So the cost of free software sometimes is that some of these problems you might have to solve yourself. So the thing is, I just had to do trial and error. I tried, typing in google.com, and I got that error, so I was like, well, let me try the web protocol, which is the HTTP or the HTTPS, and it worked. Similarly, whenever I got this element attribute name, by clicking on it, I'm not in edit mode, so let me go back to there, edit, and then get that element name. One thing that I noticed is that it does not actually populate the anchor tag, which is, the start of it, you need that pound sign. It doesn't populate that. Once again, I'm not sure if that's an error, but once again, cost of free website or web service and, software. But the point of this is that you can really do something quite simply. So you can add elements, you can actually drag and drop files directly into here, and that might be where, the space limitations come into play. So something interesting on this too is because of the simplistic UI, like user access and ease of access, one of the things, much like resizing the text, is to bring something to the back or the foreground, you actually have to click and drag over this button. So to go to the background, I'm going to click left, and the foreground, I'm going to click and drag right. So, maybe that may not work for you. Just have in mind that this service is directed at making things intuitive and simple, but that may not always match your definition of that ideology. So do experiment and play around. With this, it's also very easy to add other web pages. So the single click gives me this 4-button menu. Clicking on different objects give me their own specific menus. But if I double click on the blank space of this website, oh, am I not in edit mode? Oh, if I double click, I'm not sure why it wasn't working. Maybe I was still on this image or something. I could get this other menu, which I can change the page title. I can change the URL. I can make this a start page. I can do things like background editing. One thing, I can delete the whole web page. I can go back to previous revisions, and I can add my own custom code. So if I had no JavaScript or CSS, I can do that. Noting that you kind of just get this basic stuff with the head and the body here, and that may, it gives you a warning here, may render your entire page unusable. So if you're inserting custom head or body code, do know that it probably will affect what you have on your page here. So once again, this is directed at simplicity and kind of not having to worry about those things. So let's go back to that double click context menu here and look at a couple of these other options, because there's another one that's pretty important, and that's creating new web pages. So if I create a new web page, it's going to ask me for a title. I'm just going to call it red because, why not? This gives me a blank web page, which I can create another text element on. I'm not going to fill this one in. I'm just going to show you that if I go to my users / this page, this is actually the live version of it. And I can go directly into the edit mode of that if I do this correctly. So let me refresh this page and not delete all my text and go to edit. Right now, I can start moving around stuff and typing in there again. So you can also access this directory by being in the edit mode, and in the double click menu there's this little button here that says list all pages, and you can get their URL. Noting again that you will want the web protocol, the HTTP or the HTTPS at the beginning, otherwise it will not link to your internal web page correctly. You'll get that error page. So in overview, know and understand that this gives you an option to do something completely for free. It's kind of like fun just to mess around with, to see this different style of editing. So if you only have done web coding, text coding, it may be like a good change of pace for you. And you can really mess around with different creative things to do with your websites. I know on their main page they have some examples, so you can click on those and see what other people have made, and so they have these links, and I really don't know what these are, but you can kind of see things that are possible to be inspired by. And I also ask you to make your own creations and offer them to us. If you find something amazing, send it to our Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, whatever, and we'll take a look at it. So if you make a really cool website, we're very interested to see it. So I think that's where I'll leave you. Enjoy this, make those websites, and learn something new. All right, we'll see you in the next one.